Tonight, we uncover the hidden threads connecting your favorite holiday traditions to ancient rituals you never knew existed. From wild Roman festivals, where slaves became masters for a day, to mysterious Norse ceremonies in frozen forests, you'll discover how gift giving, evergreen trees, and winter feasting stretch back thousands of years before Christianity. These ancient secrets shaped everything you love about the holidays, but the real story begins in ways that will completely surprise you tonight. So settle in now, let your body sink deep into your bed, and allow your mind to drift peacefully as we journey together through these forgotten tales. If you enjoy these gentle historical explorations, please subscribe to Sleepy Holidays for more soothing stories about our cherished traditions. Take a slow breath, close your eyes, and let the whispers of history guide you toward restful sleep as we begin this magical journey together tonight. Chapter 1. In the Soft Glow of Yesteryears. Listen, do you hear that gentle rustling? It's the soft whisper of autumn leaves falling like golden memories to the earth below. Each leaf carries stories of celebrations past, of laughter echoing through time, of traditions born in distant lands under different stars. Tonight, we travel back through centuries to discover the ancient roots that still nourish our modern holiday joy. Picture ancient Rome in December, when the cold winds carried something magical through marble streets. Citizens prepared for Saturnalia, the most beloved festival of their year. For 7 glorious days, the rigid rules of Roman society melted away like winter snow. Masters served their slaves, children governed households, and wild merriment filled every corner of the empire. This was no quiet celebration, but an explosion of freedom and joy. During Saturnalia, Roman homes transformed into theaters of delightful chaos. Slaves reclined on dining couches, while their masters waited on them hand and foot. Children wore their fathers' togas, stumbling about in oversized dignity. The streets echoed with gambling, singing, and the sweet sound of social barriers crumbling. For these precious days, equality wasn't just an idea, it was lived experience wrapped in winter celebration. The Romans understood something profound about winter, that darkness demanded light, that hardship required celebration. Saturnalia wasn't just a party, it was humanity's rebellion against the dying year. Candles flickered in every window, holly and ivy decorated doorways, and the aroma of roasted meats and honey cakes filled the air. These ancient Romans created the template for winter cheer that still warms our hearts today. At the heart of Saturnalia stood Saturn himself, the golden god of agriculture and time. Romans honored him as the bringer of civilization, the teacher who showed mortals how to work the earth and harvest abundance. In Saturn's mythical reign, there was no slavery, no want, no war, only peace, plenty, and eternal spring. The festival recreated this golden age, if only for a magical week each winter. Saturn's temple, on the Forum, held Rome's greatest treasure, the state treasury itself. During his festival, this sacred space opened wide, releasing not just gold, but the very spirit of generosity. Romans believed that Saturn governed the passage of time, that he held the keys to both memory and hope. In honoring him, they honored the eternal cycle of seasons, of death and rebirth, of endings that become beginnings. The gift giving that defines our holidays today was born in Saturn's honor. Romans called them sigillaria, small tokens exchanged to show gratitude and affection. Children received simple wax dolls, while adults shared golden coin replicas and sweet treats. These weren't grand gestures, but gentle expressions of care. The true gift wasn't the object itself, but the love it carried from one heart to another across winter's darkness. Imagine holding one of those ancient wax dolls, feeling its simple curves molded by craftsmen's hands 2,000 years ago. Picture golden sigillaria coins, their surfaces worn smooth by countless touches, passed from Roman parent to Roman child with whispered blessings. These humble gifts created bonds stronger than any chain, connections that transcended social class, love that outlived empires, and still echoes in our own gift giving today. The Romans decorated their homes with evergreen boughs, symbols of life persisting through winter's apparent death. Holly, with its sharp leaves and blood red berries, ivy climbing toward light, mistletoe gathered from sacred oak trees. These plants whispered promises that spring would return, that life was stronger than any darkness. Their green hope still adorns our homes, carrying ancient Roman faith into our modern celebrations. Saturnalia feasts were legendary tables groaning under honeyed wine, roasted fowl, and elaborate pastries shaped like animals and gods. Romans ate lying down on couches, a position of leisure usually reserved for citizens alone. But during the festival, slaves reclined beside masters, children beside elders, all equals in the democracy of celebration. Food became the language of unity, speaking what words could not express. As Saturnalia nights deepened, Romans lit countless oil lamps and candles, pushing back winter's overwhelming darkness. They sang ancient songs, told stories of gods and heroes, and shared the warmth of human connection. These gatherings weren't just about feasting and gifts, they were about remembering who we are when we strip away pretense, when we choose love over fear, community over isolation. The festival's final days carried a bittersweet beauty, like the last golden leaves clinging to autumn branches. Romans knew that Saturn's reign of equality would end, that regular life would resume, that masters and slaves would return to their assigned roles. But they also knew something had changed. Hearts had opened, connections had deepened, and the memory of those perfect days would warm the entire year ahead. As Roman Saturnalia celebrations gradually faded into history's gentle embrace, their spirit didn't die, it transformed. Like seeds blown on winter winds, these traditions took root in other cultures, other faiths, other times. The gift giving, the feasting, the lights pushing back darkness, the temporary suspension of rigid social rules. All of these beautiful customs would find new homes in new lands. And so our journey through the soft glow of yesteryears leads us northward from sun-warmed Roman stone to frost-covered Nordic forests, where another people celebrated winter's darkest nights with their own ancient magic. The Norsemen called it Yule, and their traditions would intertwine with Roman customs, creating an even richer tapestry of celebration that continues to warm our hearts today. But that story awaits us just ahead. Chapter 2, Echoes of Yule's Embers. Now we journey far north, where icy winds whisper through ancient pines and snow blankets the frozen earth. Here, long before Christmas bells ever rang, the Norse people kindled fires that would burn for 12 sacred nights. Their Yule celebrations blazed with such intensity that even today, centuries later, we can still feel the warmth of those glowing embers in our modern holiday traditions. Picture yourself stepping into a Norse longhouse, the air thick with wood smoke and the scent of roasting meat. Outside, December's bitter cold grips the land like iron claws, but inside, families gather around the great hearth, the centerpiece of their celebration, a massive Yule log, carefully selected months before from the heartwood of oak or ash. destined to burn bright through the longest nights of winter. This wasn't just any ordinary fire. Oh no, this was sacred flame. The Norse believed that as long as the Yule log burned, the sun would return from its winter slumber. Families would save a piece of the previous year's log, using it to kindle the new fire, creating an unbroken chain of light stretching back through generations. Each crackling ember carried the hopes and prayers of an entire community. Can you hear the logs settling in the hearth, sending sparks dancing up the chimney like tiny orange spirits? Each pop and hiss was music to Norse ears, a promise that winter's grip would eventually loosen. The log had to burn continuously for 12 days and nights, never allowed to die completely. Young and old would take turns tending the sacred flame, adding smaller branches, keeping the ancient covenant alive. Around this glowing centerpiece, the Norse gathered to share stories that had been passed down through countless winters. Tales of brave heroes and cunning gods, of battles fought in frozen fjords, and wisdom earned through hardship. The firelight would dance across weathered faces, illuminating eyes, bright with wonder, as voices carried these ancient narratives into the smoky darkness, weaving magic with every whispered word. But these weren't just entertainment. These stories carried deeper meaning. The Norse believed in weird, the invisible threads that connected all things across time and space. During Yule, as the log burned bright, they would speak binding spells, casting intentions for the coming year. Each word spoken beside the sacred fire held power. Each wish whispered to the flames might just come true when spring finally returned. Now imagine the feast. Oh, what a glorious sight it must have been. Long wooden tables groaning under the weight of roasted boar, steaming haunches of venison, wheels of sharp cheese aged in cool caves, the aroma of herbs and honey, juniper berries and caraway seeds, filling the air with scents so rich and warm that your mouth waters just thinking about it, even hundreds of years later. The centerpiece of every Norse Yule feast, a magnificent boar's head, decorated with holly and mistletoe, carried in on a great platter, while the entire hall erupted in cheers. This wasn't just dinner, it was a sacred offering to Freyr, the god of fertility and prosperity. Every bite taken, every morsel shared, was both nourishment for the body and reverence for the divine forces that governed their harsh but beautiful world. And the ale, the golden ale that flowed like rivers during Yule season, brewed with honey and herbs, fermented in oak barrels. Each cup held the essence of summer meadows and busy bees. The Norse would raise their drinking horns high, toasting to Odin the All-Father, to Thor the Thunder-Bearer, to Frigg the Wise Mother. Each drink sealed their connection to the gods and to each other. Listen, can you hear the sounds of that ancient celebration? The clink of horn against horn, laughter echoing off wooden walls, the gentle strumming of harps as skalds sang tales of valor. Children would sit wide-eyed beside their elders, absorbing every word, every ritual, every sacred tradition that bound their community together through the darkest months when survival itself depended on unity and shared warmth. Outside the longhouse, snow fell in thick curtains, burying the world in pristine silence. But inside, life pulsed bright and strong. The Yule log's glow painted everything in shades of gold and amber, casting dancing shadows that seemed alive, almost magical. This was more than celebration, it was defiance against winter's harsh decree, a declaration that human warmth and fellowship could triumph over nature's coldest intentions. The Norse understood something profound about light and darkness. They knew that the deepest night comes just before dawn, that the coldest season precedes the warming spring. Their Yule fires weren't just physical warmth, they were symbols of hope, reminders that even in life's bleakest moments, there's always a spark waiting to burst into flame, always a reason to gather together and celebrate the enduring power of community. As days passed and the great log slowly burned down to glowing coals, something beautiful would happen. Families would collect the ash and charcoal, not to discard, but to preserve. This sacred residue would be scattered on fields come spring, blessing the soil with Yule's magic, ensuring a bountiful harvest. Even the smallest ember held power, connecting winter's contemplation to summer's abundance through an unbroken cycle of renewal. But change was coming to the north, slow and steady as melting ice. Christian missionaries began arriving in longships and on horseback, bringing new stories, new gods, new ways of celebrating the winter season. At first, the old and new traditions existed side by side, like two streams flowing together, each maintaining its own character, while gradually blending into something entirely different, something that would eventually become recognizable to us today. The Norse didn't abandon their beloved Yule overnight. Oh no. Change came gradually, like seasons shifting almost imperceptibly from one to the next. Christian priests, wise in the ways of conversion, didn't fight the old traditions. Instead, they embraced them, slowly weaving new meanings into ancient rituals, transforming pagan celebrations into Christian holy days, while keeping the warmth and joy that made winter bearable for northern peoples. And so, as our Norse Yule log burns down to its final glowing embers, we can see how those ancient flames still flicker in our modern celebrations. The Christmas hearth, the family feast, the gathering of loved ones during winter's darkest hours, all echo with the whispers of those long ago Vikings who knew that sometimes the most important light isn't the sun above, but the warmth we kindle together here below. Chapter 3: Sacred Mistletoe and Holly. Deep within the ancient groves of Britain, long before Christmas bells ever rang, the Druids moved like whispers through misty woodlands. These mystical priests understood something profound about winter's darkest days. They saw life persisting where others saw only death, green leaves thriving when all else withered. In their reverent hands, mistletoe and holly became far more than simple plants. They became sacred symbols of hope itself. Picture these tranquil groves where towering oak trees stretched ancient limbs toward gray winter skies. Here, the Druids discovered their most precious treasure, mistletoe growing high in the branches, its pale green leaves and white berries defying the season's harsh grip. To them, this wasn't mere parasitic growth. It was proof that life could flourish even in winter's embrace, a divine gift suspended between earth and heaven. The Druids performed their sacred harvest with golden sickles, never allowing the mistletoe to touch the ground, believing its celestial power would drain away if it made contact with earth. They chanted soft hymns to the spirits of the grove, their voices mixing with winter winds through bare branches. Each sprig was gathered with reverence, treated as a bridge between the mortal world and the realm of the gods. Holly held its own sacred meaning in the Druidic tradition, its glossy green leaves and bright red berries, speaking of fertility and eternal life. Even as snow buried the forest floor, holly maintained its vibrant presence, thorns protecting its precious life force from winter's cruel touch. The Druids saw this resilience as a powerful omen, nature's promise that spring would always return, that life would triumph over the longest night. In moonlit ceremonies, deep within the sacred groves, druids would weave holly and mistletoe into intricate patterns, creating symbols of protection and blessing. Their dreamy hymns drifted through the forest, ancient melodies that spoke of seasons turning, of darkness giving way to light. These rituals honored the green gifts of nature, acknowledging their power to sustain hope when all seemed lost in winter's grip. The mistletoe's white berries held special significance, representing the life essence that flowed even in winter's darkest hours. Druids believed these berries contained the concentrated power of the sun, captured and preserved through the plant's mysterious growth high above the forest floor. They used mistletoe in healing rituals, in blessings for fertility, and in ceremonies designed to ensure the community's survival through harsh winter months. As the winter solstice approached, the Druids' reverence for these sacred plants intensified. Holly and mistletoe became central to their celebrations of the returning light, symbols that reminded everyone that even in the year's darkest moment, life persisted, love endured, and hope remained alive. Their rituals wove these plants into the very fabric of winter celebrations, creating traditions that would echo through countless generations. The Druids understood mistletoe as a powerful symbol of fertility, its growth patterns seeming almost miraculous, appearing without roots in the soil, sustained by mysterious forces. They believed it could enhance love between partners, ensure healthy children, and bring prosperity to households. Holly, with its protective thorns and vibrant berries, represented the fierce strength needed to protect what was most precious during winter's trials. From these ancient druidic beliefs, the romantic traditions of mistletoe slowly emerged, though transformed through centuries of cultural change. The original sacred meaning, the reverence for life's persistence in winter, gradually became the custom of sharing kisses beneath mistletoe boughs. Love and fertility remained at the heart of the tradition, but the mystical connection to nature's deeper mysteries began to fade into folklore. Holly wreaths, too, found their origins in druidic practice, where circular arrangements of the sacred plant were hung as protective charms, their thorns warding off evil spirits, their evergreen leaves promising renewal. These wreaths adorned doorways and sacred spaces, creating barriers between the community and winter's harsh forces. The circular shape itself held meaning, representing the eternal cycle of seasons, the promise of spring's return. The Druids believed these plants possessed actual magic, not mere symbolism, but genuine supernatural power. They prepared potions from holly leaves, created protective amulets from mistletoe, and used both in divination rituals to glimpse the future. Their deep knowledge of these plants' properties, both practical and mystical, made them invaluable to ancient communities struggling through winter's challenges, healers and spiritual guides combined into one. During the longest nights, Druidic communities would gather around fires adorned with holly and mistletoe, sharing stories of the plant's power, singing ancient songs that honored their life-giving properties. Children learned the sacred names, the proper rituals, the deep respect these green gifts deserved. These winter celebrations became the foundation, the spiritual bedrock upon which later holiday traditions would be built, generation after generation. As centuries passed and new religions spread across Britain, the Druids' sacred knowledge began its transformation into folklore. Their precise rituals became half-remembered customs, their mystical understanding reduced to superstition and tradition. Yet something essential remained, the recognition that mistletoe and holly held special power, the sense that winter celebrations needed these green symbols of hope, life, and renewal to feel complete. Village storytellers carried fragments of druidic wisdom through the dark ages, weaving tales of magical plants, of love discovered beneath mistletoe boughs, of holly protecting homes from winter's harm. These stories, passed from grandmother to grandchild, kept alive the essential spirit of the ancient beliefs, even as their original sacred context faded into the misty realms of half-remembered dreams and whispered legends. Christian traditions eventually embraced these plant symbols, weaving them into nativity celebrations, though their pagan origins were carefully obscured. Holly became associated with Christ's crown of thorns, its red berries representing drops of sacred blood. Mistletoe, with its more obviously romantic associations, found a quieter place in holiday customs, its ancient fertility symbolism transformed into innocent traditions of holiday affection and seasonal joy. And so the Druids retreated into history's shadows, their sacred groves silent now, their ancient hymns forgotten. Yet their reverence for mistletoe and holly lives on, woven into Christmas traditions we still cherish today. Every wreath upon a door, every sprig of mistletoe hung with hope, carries whispers of their wisdom, reminders that even in winter's darkest hours, life endures, love persists, and spring will always return again. Chapter 4: Flicker of the Candles Dance. Here, in the depths of winter's embrace, we gather around ancient hearths where flames have danced for thousands of years. The soft golden glow illuminates weathered stone walls, casting shadows that seem to whisper secrets from ages past. These flickering lights have witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the birth of traditions that would shape our modern celebrations. Tonight, we explore the mesmerizing dance of fire itself and discover its profound meaning. Long before electric lights banished the darkness, our ancestors understood the sacred power of flame. In Roman homes during Saturnalia, thousands of candles would illuminate grand processions through marble corridors. The wealthy would line their villas with oil lamps, creating rivers of light that flowed through the streets. Children would carry tiny tapers, their faces glowing with wonder as they participated in rituals older than memory. These weren't just sources of light, they were symbols of hope, conquering despair. Picture the ancient Roman streets on December 17th, when Saturnalia began in earnest. Slaves and masters would walk together, each carrying identical candles that made all equal in the democracy of darkness. The flames would dance in unison, creating a sea of moving light that transformed the cityscape. Temples dedicated to Saturn would blaze with hundreds of offerings, their smoke carrying prayers skyward. This tradition of processional candles would eventually find its way into Christian celebrations, bridging pagan and sacred worlds. Far north in the frozen lands of Scandinavia, the Norse peoples developed their own relationship with fire during Yule. The great log, carefully selected and blessed, would burn continuously for 12 days and nights. Its flames would cast dancing shadows on wooden walls, while families gathered to share stories and strengthen bonds. Small candles made from rendered animal fat would supplement the great fire, their humble light representing hope, persisting through winter's darkest hours. Each flame was a promise that spring would return once more. These Yule fires served purposes far beyond mere warmth or illumination. Viking chieftains believed the flames could divine the future, reading omens in the way smoke curled toward the rafters. Children would watch for sparks that flew up the chimney, each one carrying wishes to the gods above. The continuous burning represented life's persistence, even when the sun seemed to abandon the frozen earth. Ash from these sacred fires would be scattered on fields, ensuring fertile crops in the coming year. But candles held deeper meanings that transcended mere tradition or superstition. In the quiet corners of medieval monasteries, solitary monks would light single tapers for their midnight prayers. The flame would flicker against ancient stone, creating an intimate sanctuary within vast cathedral walls. These moments of contemplation, where breath and flame moved in harmony, represented humanity's eternal search for connection with the divine. The candle became a bridge between earthly concerns and heavenly aspirations, its light piercing both physical and spiritual darkness. Consider the psychological power of candlelight, how it transforms our very perception of time and space. The gentle flicker creates a rhythm that mirrors our heartbeat, slowing our breathing and calming our restless minds. Ancient peoples understood this instinctively, using candles not just for celebration, but for healing and meditation. The warm glow softens harsh edges, making even the humblest dwelling feel sacred and protected. This is why candlelit dinners feel romantic, why prayer by candlelight feels more profound, why we still light candles in times of crisis. In times of plague and hardship, candles became symbols of hope that refused to be extinguished. Medieval families would maintain perpetual flames during outbreaks of disease, believing the light could ward off evil spirits that brought sickness. Jewish families developed the tradition of the menorah, where each flame represented divine presence in their homes. Christian households would light Advent candles, marking time's passage towards salvation. These weren't mere customs, they were acts of defiance against despair, declarations that light would always triumph over darkness. The art of candle making itself became sacred ritual, passed down through generations like precious knowledge. Beeswax harvested from busy hives was reserved for the most holy occasions, its sweet scent rising with prayers. Tallow candles, made from animal fat, served everyday needs, but carried equal symbolic weight. Women would gather to dip wicks repeatedly, creating layers of meaning with each careful motion. The process required patience, devotion, and faith that their humble efforts would bring light to dark places. Each candle contained countless hours of hope. As Christianity spread across Europe, candle traditions merged and evolved, creating new layers of meaning. The 12 days of Christmas borrowed from Yule celebrations, but added Christian symbolism to ancient fire rituals. Candlemas, celebrated on February 2nd, marked the purification of Mary and presentation of Jesus at the temple. Priests would bless hundreds of candles, their flames representing Christ as the light of the world. These blessed tapers would protect homes throughout the year, their sacred fire connecting earthly hearths to heavenly power. In the hushed stillness of a monastic cell, imagine Brother Thomas lighting his evening taper. The small flame illuminates his weathered prayer book, casting gentle light on words worn smooth by countless readings. Outside, winter winds howl against stone walls, but here in his tiny sanctuary, peace reigns supreme. The candle's steady glow transforms cramped quarters into sacred space, where earthly concerns dissolve in contemplation. His breath forms small clouds in the cold air, visible in the candlelight, like prayers made manifest. Hour after hour, the monk maintains his vigil, the candle burning lower as his prayers deepen. This ritual of keeping watch, of staying awake while the world sleeps, connects him to ancient traditions of spiritual guardianship. The flame represents his soul's dedication, burning bright, even in darkness, consuming itself in service to something greater. When dawn finally breaks, he will extinguish the taper, but its purpose will have been fulfilled. Another night of darkness has been held at bay, another victory for light over shadow. These individual moments of candlelit prayer, multiplied across thousands of homes and monasteries, created a network of light that spanned the known world. Each flame was connected to every other part of humanity's collective effort to push back the darkness. Mothers would light candles for sick children, lovers would pledge by flickering light, the dying would request final candles to guide their souls homeward. The simple act of striking flint to tinder became a declaration of faith that tomorrow would bring hope renewed. Yet, as centuries passed, new challenges emerged that would test these ancient traditions. The growing power of reason, the rise of scientific thinking, began to question old ways of understanding the world. Some viewed candlelit rituals as mere superstition, relics of a darker age, when ignorance ruled human hearts. Universities spread new learning that competed with monastery wisdom. Printing presses challenged the authority of hand-copied prayers. The very foundations of tradition began to tremble like candle flames in a rising wind. Young scholars returning from distant universities brought disturbing questions to their childhood homes. Why maintain expensive candle rituals when oil lamps burned brighter and longer? They wondered if ancient ceremonies truly held power or merely provided comfort for simple minds. Parents found themselves defending practices they had never thought to question, struggling to explain why candlelight felt sacred while other illumination did not. The old certainties began to waver like flames guttering in an unexpected draft, threatening to extinguish traditions that had burned for centuries. And so we arrive at a crossroads where flickering candlelight meets the harsh glare of new thinking. Will ancient wisdom survive the coming storm of change, or will these time-honored traditions be swept away like smoke on the wind? But perhaps, in the growing darkness of uncertainty, people will rediscover why their ancestors turned to candles in the first place. For some mysteries cannot be solved by reason alone. Some truths can only be glimpsed in dancing shadows. Some hope can only be kindled by flame. Chapter 5: Clash of Convictions. As Christianity spread across the Roman Empire, it encountered something unexpected: ancient winter celebrations that had thrived for centuries. The early church faced a profound dilemma. Should they fight these beloved pagan traditions, or find a way to transform them? What happened next would forever change how we celebrate Christmas, creating layers of meaning that still influence us today. The collision of belief systems was about to begin. Picture Rome in the 3rd century, Christians gathering in secret, while all around them, the city prepared for Saturnalia. Temples buzzed with activity, citizens exchanged gifts, and feasts filled every home. The church leaders watched this spectacle with growing concern. How could they establish their own sacred celebrations when the people's hearts were so deeply attached to these ancient rituals? The challenge seemed impossible, yet from this tension, something remarkable would emerge. In distant northern territories, the situation was even more complex. Germanic and Celtic tribes celebrated Yule with profound spiritual devotion, honoring the return of light during the darkest days. Their traditions ran deeper than mere festivities. They were woven into the very fabric of survival and hope. When Christian missionaries arrived, they discovered that simply condemning these practices would never work. The people needed their winter light. They needed their sacred celebrations. Then came a stroke of brilliant strategy from the church hierarchy. Rather than fighting against the December celebrations, they would join them. Pope Julius I made a momentous decision, around 350 CE, officially declaring December 25th as the birth date of Jesus Christ. This wasn't based on historical evidence of Christ's actual birth, but on something far more practical. It was a calculated move to blend Christian theology with existing cultural celebrations. The timing was perfect. December 25th fell right in the heart of Saturnalia, when Romans were already celebrating renewal and gift giving. The festival honored Saturn, god of agriculture and time, representing the golden age when all people lived in harmony. Citizens feasted together, social hierarchies dissolved temporarily, and masters served their servants. These themes of equality and abundance would seamlessly transition into Christian Christmas celebrations, though few realize the connection. Meanwhile, in Northern Europe, Yule traditions offered even richer material for Christian adaptation. The Germanic peoples celebrated the wild hunt when Odin rode across the winter sky, bringing gifts to children. They burned Yule logs to ensure the sun's return, decorated evergreen trees as symbols of eternal life, and gathered for 12 days of feasting. These weren't random customs, they were sacred rituals connecting communities to the cycles of nature and the promise of spring's return. The genius of the church's approach lay in recognizing universal themes that transcended religious boundaries. Light conquering darkness wasn't just a Christian concept, it was humanity's most ancient hope. Every culture that survived harsh winters understood this symbolism, whether you called it Sol Invictus, the birth of Mithras, or the Christ child. The message remained the same. In the darkest hour, when all seems lost, salvation arrives. This shared understanding would become Christmas's greatest strength. Life's renewal became another bridge between traditions. The Romans celebrated Saturn's golden age, returning. The Germanic tribes honored the rebirth of the sun, and Christians proclaimed the birth of their Savior. All spoke of new beginnings, hope restored, and the triumph of life over death. These weren't competing ideas, they were variations on humanity's deepest spiritual truth. The Church recognized this connection and wove it skillfully into their growing Christmas narrative. As Christian lore developed around December 25th, it absorbed countless elements from existing traditions. The Star of Bethlehem echoed ancient beliefs about celestial signs marking divine births. Angels announcing Christ's arrival mirrored Roman traditions of divine messengers, bringing news of golden ages. Even the humble stable setting resonated with pagan themes of gods born in natural earthly places rather than palaces. Each borrowed element was carefully reframed within Christian theology, creating something entirely new. This cultural blending created layers of meaning that enriched Christmas beyond simple religious observation. Families could exchange gifts, honoring both Christian charity and Roman Saturnalia customs. They could light candles, celebrating Christ's light and ancient solstice traditions simultaneously. Evergreen decorations served both as symbols of eternal life through Christ and reminders of nature's endurance through winter darkness. Every Christmas practice carried multiple meanings, speaking to different hearts in different ways. Yet this synthesis didn't happen without resistance. In many communities, tensions simmered between traditional pagan practitioners and new Christian converts. Some pagans viewed the Church's adoption of their sacred dates as theft, while strict Christians worried about corrupting pure doctrine with heathen practices. The masses found themselves caught between competing loyalties, torn between ancestral traditions and emerging faith. These weren't merely theological debates, they were battles for the soul of entire cultures. Ordinary people struggled with profound questions during this transitional period. Could they honor Christ while keeping beloved family traditions? Were their ancient winter customs inherently evil, or might they contain universal truths? Grandparents passed down Yule songs while parents taught Christian prayers. Children grew up navigating multiple spiritual worlds simultaneously. The emotional weight of choosing between past and future pressed heavily on countless hearts, creating internal conflicts that would take generations to resolve. Religious authorities on both sides added to the confusion with conflicting messages. Some Christian leaders preached complete separation from pagan influences, while others encouraged thoughtful adaptation. Pagan priests sometimes welcomed dialogue, while others declared war on the new faith. Local communities had to navigate these competing demands while maintaining social harmony. The result was a patchwork of compromises, with practices varying dramatically from region to region based on local negotiations between faith communities. Gradually, something beautiful began emerging from this cultural chaos. Communities discovered they could honor their ancestors while embracing new spiritual insights. Christians found their faith enriched by ancient wisdom about hope and renewal, while pagan traditions gained deeper meaning through Christian theology. The synthesis wasn't uniform or immediate, but it was profound. Old and new began dancing together, creating celebrations that spoke to the full range of human spiritual experience. By the end of the 4th century, a new form of December celebration was taking shape across much of Europe. It wasn't purely Christian or purely pagan, but something richer and more complex. Communities had learned to weave together their deepest traditions with emerging spiritual insights. The result honored both ancestral wisdom and contemporary faith, creating celebrations that could speak to diverse hearts within the same community. This synthesis would become Christianity's greatest evangelical tool. The foundation was now set for Christmas, as we know it today, a celebration carrying multiple layers of meaning from different eras and cultures. But this synthesis was only the beginning. The new Christian winter celebration would continue evolving, adapting to changing times, while preserving its core message of hope and renewal. Our next chapter will explore how these blended traditions developed rhythm and endurance, surviving everything history would throw at them. Chapter 6: The Syncretic Symphony. Picture medieval Europe in December, bustling marketplaces filled with merchants hawking their wares, the air thick with the scent of roasted chestnuts and mulled wine. Here, in these crowded squares, something remarkable was happening. Ancient Roman traditions were weaving themselves into Christian celebrations, creating a tapestry of beliefs that would forever change how we understand Christmas. The old ways refused to die. They simply found new expressions in this emerging holiday. The rowdy spirit of Saturnalia lived on in these winter celebrations. Masters served their servants, children ruled over adults for a day, and social hierarchies turned delightfully upside down. These role reversals weren't accidents. They were echoes of Rome's wildest festival. In taverns and town squares, people embraced the chaos, laughing and feasting with abandon. The church may have claimed December 25th, but the people held on to their ancient right to revelry, to turn the world on its head. Yet just steps away from these boisterous celebrations, serene chapels offered a different kind of worship. Candlelight flickered against stone walls, illuminating painted scenes of the Nativity. Here, Christians gathered in quiet devotion, their voices rising in gentle hymns that seemed to float on winter air. The contrast was striking: raucous laughter from the streets, peaceful prayers from the sanctuaries. two worlds existing side by side, neither fully conquering the other, both finding their place in this evolving tradition. The aroma of Christmas feasts told their own story of cultural fusion. Roasted boar, the centerpiece of many medieval tables, carried forward the hearty traditions of Norse Yule celebrations. These weren't Christian innovations, they were ancient customs dressed in new clothes. Families gathered around tables laden with foods their ancestors had enjoyed for centuries, each dish a bridge connecting pagan past to Christian present. The flavors themselves became a form of remembrance, a delicious way to honor what came before. In Nordic lands, the Yule log still burned bright in Christian homes. This wasn't coincidence, it was continuity. The log that once honored ancient winter gods now warmed families celebrating Christ's birth. The flames danced with the same golden light, casting shadows that had witnessed both pagan rituals and Christian prayers. Time had layered new meanings onto old practices, but the essential human need for warmth, for light, for gathering during winter's darkest hours remained beautifully unchanged. Christmas markets became theaters of cultural adaptation. Merchants sold evergreen wreaths, their circular shape echoing ancient symbols of eternal life, while Christian buyers saw representations of God's endless love. Holly berries gleamed red like drops of Christ's blood to some, while others remembered older associations with winter spirits and protective magic. The same objects, the same traditions, carrying multiple meanings simultaneously. This wasn't confusion, it was the beautiful complexity of human belief evolving over time. Gift giving customs revealed similar layers of meaning. Romans had exchanged presents during Saturnalia, simple tokens of goodwill during winter's grip. Christians reframed this practice, seeing in it echoes of the Magi's gifts to infant Jesus. The act remained the same, hands extending offerings, hearts expressing care, but the stories people told about why they gave began to change. New narratives wrapped around old behaviors, creating traditions that felt both ancient and fresh, familiar yet transformed. The resilience of these blended practices spoke to something deep in human nature, a remarkable ability to adapt while preserving what matters most. Communities didn't abandon their cherished customs when Christianity arrived. They found ways to make old traditions serve new purposes. This wasn't deception, it was wisdom. The heart's need for celebration, for connection, for meaning, transcended any single religious framework. People instinctively understood that the best traditions could grow and change without losing their essential spirit. Medieval streets during Christmas season became living museums of cultural synthesis. Mummers performed ancient plays with Christian themes, their masks hiding faces that might represent angels or older spirits, depending on who was watching. Mystery plays enacted biblical stories in marketplaces where Roman gods had once been honored. Street performers juggled traditions as skillfully as they juggled their props, keeping multiple cultural threads spinning in the air, none allowed to fall, all woven into something new. The 12 days of Christmas reflected this blending perfectly. Each day brought its own customs, some clearly Christian, others bearing pagan fingerprints that time couldn't erase. Wassailing orchards to ensure good harvests, burning incense in churches to honor the divine, dancing around Christmas trees. These activities flowed together like instruments in an orchestra. Each tradition played its part, contributing to a symphony that was greater than any single note, beautiful in its complexity. Food customs during this period revealed the most intimate connections between old and new. Christmas puddings contained ingredients that had been stirred into winter celebrations for centuries before Christ's name was ever whispered over them. Spices from distant lands, fruits preserved through ancient methods, cooking techniques passed down through generations of mothers, all found their way into explicitly Christian celebrations. The kitchen became a place where cultural memory lived most vividly, where the past literally nourished the present. Church bells rang across medieval Europe, their bronze voices calling Christians to worship, but their tones carried older resonances too. Bell ringing had long been used to ward off evil spirits during winter's darkest nights. The sound remained the same, bronze striking bronze, vibrations rippling through cold air, but the intentions layered upon those vibrations multiplied. Each peal simultaneously called the faithful to prayer, welcomed Christ into the world, and continued humanity's ancient practice of making noise to frightening darkness away. As centuries passed, these syncretic traditions proved remarkably durable. They survived religious reforms, political upheavals, and social transformations that swept away many other customs. Their secret was adaptability, the ability to mean different things to different people while maintaining their essential character. A Christmas tree could represent Christ's cross to a devout Christian, the world tree of Norse mythology to someone with older memories, or simply a beautiful centerpiece to those who cared little for either interpretation. The crowded streets of medieval European cities gradually gave way to something quieter, more contemplative. As exploration opened new worlds, as colonies stretched across distant oceans, Christmas traditions began their next great journey. Ships carried more than goods and people to the new world. They transported customs, memories, ways of celebrating that would need to adapt once again to new environments, new challenges, new opportunities for cultural blending and transformation. Colonial America offered a blank canvas for Christmas traditions, but it wasn't truly blank. Indigenous peoples had their own winter customs, their own ways of marking the season's turning. European colonists brought their blended celebrations, already rich with Roman, Norse, and Christian elements, into contact with Native American traditions of gratitude, harvest celebrations, and spiritual connection to the natural world. Once again, cultures would meet, mingle, and create something entirely new while honoring what came before. The syncretic symphony of Christmas was entering a new movement, its melodies about to encounter fresh harmonies in the vast wilderness of the New World. What began in Roman markets, what grew in medieval European streets, would soon face its greatest test of adaptability. Could these ancient customs, these blended traditions, these human needs for light and warmth and connection, survive the crossing to America and once again find ways to evolve while preserving their essential spirit? Chapter 7, Colonial Interlude. Picture vast wooden ships creaking across endless Atlantic waters, carrying more than just settlers to the New World. They brought faith, traditions, and a holiday that would face its greatest trial yet. In these colonial shores, Christmas would encounter something unexpected: fierce resistance from the very Christians who sailed so far to worship freely. The irony runs deeper than you might imagine as we discover how a celebration of Christ faced its harshest critics among believers themselves. The Puritan settlers viewed Christmas with deep suspicion, seeing it not as sacred, but as corrupted by centuries of pagan influence. To them, December 25th represented everything wrong with European Christianity, the very excesses they had fled. These stern colonists believed true worship required simplicity, not feast days borrowed from Roman festivals. In their minds, Christmas had become a mockery of Christ himself, twisted by traditions that honored earthly pleasures over heavenly devotion. Massachusetts Bay Colony took the most extreme stance, actually banning Christmas celebrations entirely in 1659. Anyone caught observing the holiday faced heavy fines, 5 shillings for each offense. Imagine, in a land founded on religious freedom, Christmas became illegal. The Puritan leaders declared it a day of work, not worship. Churches remained closed on December 25th, while colonists toiled in their fields and workshops, determined to strip away what they saw as centuries of Catholic corruption. Yet human nature proved stronger than religious decree. Christmas spirit found secret ways to survive. Behind closed doors, families whispered old carols, shared modest gifts, told stories their grandparents knew. Children especially carried these memories, passing forbidden traditions like precious seeds through harsh colonial winters. Even the sternest Puritan households sometimes softened, allowing small celebrations they called simple family gatherings, never admitting they honored the forbidden day. The southern colonies took a different approach, where Anglican traditions held stronger influence. Virginia planters maintained Christmas feasting, though more restrained than their English cousins remembered. They gathered for modest celebrations, sharing roasted fowl, cornbread, whatever the harsh land provided. These colonial Christmas dinners bore little resemblance to medieval banquets, yet they preserved the essential spirit, community gathering during winter's darkest days, gratitude for survival, hope for spring's eventual return. Dutch settlers in New Amsterdam brought their own Christmas customs, celebrating St. Nicholas Day with gift exchanges and festive meals. When English rule replaced Dutch governance, these traditions blended with Anglican practices, creating unique colonial variations. The Dutch emphasis on family gathering, home-centered celebration, proved more acceptable to Protestant sensibilities than elaborate church ceremonies. Slowly, quietly, Christmas began adapting to American soil, finding new forms that honored both faith and frontier realities. For most colonists, December meant survival, not celebration. Winter brought harsh trials, scarce food, bitter cold, the constant threat of death. Christmas fell during the most dangerous season, when families huddled around meager fires, rationing precious supplies, praying for spring. Any celebration seemed almost frivolous, when survival demanded every ounce of strength and resource. Yet precisely because life hung so precariously, small moments of joy became infinitely precious, worth protecting, worth remembering through the longest nights. Colonial Christmas dinners reflected frontier realities: wild turkey instead of goose, cornmeal pudding replacing plum cake, cider pressed from hardy American apples. Families made do with what the New World provided, transforming European recipes with indigenous ingredients. These adapted feasts carried profound meaning, not just sustenance, but proof of successful adaptation, evidence that Old World traditions could take root in American soil, growing into something both familiar and entirely new. Native American influences subtly shaped colonial Christmas customs, though rarely acknowledged by European settlers. Indigenous knowledge of winter survival, preservation techniques, local food sources, all contributed to colonial Christmas fare. Corn became central to holiday meals. Pumpkin appeared in seasonal dishes. Cranberries added tart sweetness to winter feasts. These adoptions happened quietly, practical necessities that gradually became cherished traditions, American elements enriching European celebrations. Though few colonists recognized their debt to indigenous wisdom, African slaves and indentured servants brought their own winter traditions, blending African customs with European Christmas practices. In plantation households, enslaved cooks prepared Christmas feasts, adding subtle African flavors, rice dishes, yam preparations, preps combinations their ancestors knew. These contributions shaped American Christmas cuisine, though credit remained unacknowledged. Music, too, carried African influences, rhythms, and melodies that would eventually transform Christmas carol singing, creating distinctly American harmonies, born from cultural fusion and human creativity despite oppression. By the early 1700s, attitudes toward Christmas began shifting subtly across colonial America. New generations born on American soil felt less bound by their grandparents' European conflicts. They created their own religious practices, more flexible, adapted to frontier realities. Christmas slowly emerged from underground, no longer illegal in Massachusetts after 1681, though still viewed with suspicion. Gradually, practical Americans began separating Christmas from its controversial history, focusing instead on its usefulness for community building. The Great Awakening religious revival movement brought unexpected changes to Christmas observance. While some evangelical preachers condemned holiday celebration, others embraced it as an opportunity for spiritual reflection. Christmas became a focal point for examining faith, personal salvation, community responsibility. This religious intensity gradually softened Christmas opposition as colonists discovered that December 25th could serve serious spiritual purposes, not just frivolous entertainment. Faith and festivity began finding common ground, preparing for future reconciliation. Revolutionary War era brought new challenges to Christmas celebration as colonists struggled with questions of identity and tradition. Should they maintain British customs or forge distinctly American practices? Many viewed Christmas as tainted by association with English rule, yet others cherished it as part of their cultural heritage. George Washington's famous Delaware crossing occurred on Christmas night, linking the holiday with American independence, transforming Christmas from British tradition into American symbol, though this connection would develop more fully later. Early American presidents maintained complex relationships with Christmas, reflecting the nation's ongoing ambivalence. Some held modest celebrations, others ignored the day entirely. Few made public statements about Christmas observance, respecting the religious diversity of their constituents. This presidential restraint helped establish Christmas as a private matter, celebrated in homes rather than government buildings, allowing the holiday to develop organically without official endorsement or opposition, finding its place through popular acceptance rather than political decree. By the 1820s, Christmas was experiencing remarkable transformation throughout America. Immigration brought new traditions, German Christmas trees, Irish carols, Italian nativity scenes. Each group contributed elements that enriched American Christmas celebration. Cities began hosting public Christmas events, shops displayed holiday goods, newspapers printed Christmas stories and poems. The holiday was emerging from centuries of controversy, ready to embrace the prosperity and optimism of a growing nation, yet still carrying echoes of its complex colonial journey. As winter winds whispered through colonial settlements, Christmas carried the seeds of its future transformation. What began as forbidden celebration had become quiet family tradition. What started as foreign custom was becoming uniquely American. The austere colonial Christmas, marked by survival rather than abundance, had taught valuable lessons about finding joy in simplicity, gratitude in hardship, community in isolation. These lessons would prove essential as Christmas prepared to embrace the dramatic changes approaching with the 19th century's dawn. Chapter 8, Echoing Dickens' Carol. Listen, can you hear that gentle crack, the sound of aged leather binding giving way as weathered pages part for the first time in decades? That unmistakable whisper of parchment against fingertips, revealing Charles Dickens' most beloved masterpiece. A Christmas Carol, a story that would forever change how the world celebrates the season, transforming Christmas from religious observance into something far more magical, something that speaks directly to the human heart through snow-dusted Victorian streets. In 1843, London was a city of stark contrasts, where opulent drawing rooms glowed with candlelight, just streets away from freezing workhouses. Charles Dickens walked these very streets, witnessing the growing divide between rich and poor, feeling the cold indifference of industrial progress. And in his heart, a story began to form, a tale that would capture the moral essence of Christmas, not through sermons or scripture, but through the transformative power of human compassion and the possibility of redemption. Enter Ebenezer Scrooge, perhaps literature's most famous miser, his counting house filled with ledgers and cold calculation, where kindness was measured only in currency, and human suffering was merely the cost of business. Dickens crafted Scrooge as a mirror, reflecting the heartless capitalism of Victorian England, a man so consumed by greed that he had forgotten the warmth of human connection, the joy of shared laughter, the simple pleasure of a crackling fire on a cold December evening. But transformation awaits as spectral visitors emerge from the London fog, each ghost carrying lessons wrapped in ethereal light. The ghost of Christmas past, with its flickering candle crown, illuminating forgotten joys and abandoned dreams, revealing how Scrooge's heart had slowly frozen, layer by layer, year by year, until compassion became as foreign to him as warmth to a winter grave. Yet even in these painful memories, seeds of hope begin to stir, whispering possibilities of renewal. The ghost of Christmas Present, magnificent and jolly, sweeps Scrooge through London's hidden corners, where despite poverty and hardship, families gather around modest tables, sharing what little they have with hearts overflowing with gratitude. The Cratchit family, with Tiny Tim's brave smile, becomes Dickens' powerful symbol, showing that true wealth lies not in gold, but in love, in laughter, in the simple act of caring for one another, even when tomorrow seems uncertain. Through these revelations, Dickens was reshaping Christmas itself, transforming it from a primarily religious holiday into a celebration of human decency, of family bonds, of generosity toward strangers. His vivid descriptions of Christmas feasts, with steaming puddings and roasted geese, created new traditions in readers' minds, while his emphasis on gift giving, not for profit but for joy, established Christmas as a time when ordinary people could become, for one magical season, extraordinarily kind. The ghost of Christmas yet to come, shrouded in mystery and silence, reveals the ultimate consequence of a life lived without love. Scrooge's lonely grave, unmourned and forgotten, becomes Dickens' final argument that our true legacy lies not in accumulated wealth, but in the hearts we touch, the smiles we create, the suffering we ease. This haunting vision completes Scrooge's awakening, showing him that redemption remains possible even for the most hardened soul. And Christmas morning dawns, and with it, Scrooge's miraculous transformation. His laughter echoes through empty streets as he races to embrace the season he once scorned, purchasing the largest goose for the Cratchit family, anonymously helping the poor, reconnecting with his nephew. Dickens shows us that change is possible, that even the coldest heart can learn to love, that Christmas morning can indeed be a rebirth for any soul brave enough to choose compassion over calculation. The impact was immediate and profound. A Christmas Carol didn't just tell a story, it created a movement. Readers across England and America began hosting Christmas dinners for the poor. Employers gave unexpected bonuses. Families prioritized togetherness over material concerns. Dickens had achieved something remarkable. He had made kindness fashionable, generosity desirable, and Christmas not just a religious observance, but a celebration of humanity's capacity for transformation and love. Victorian Christmas traditions bloomed like flowers in Dickens' literary garden. His descriptions of Christmas trees glowing with candles, families gathered around hearths, sharing stories, children's stockings hung by the fireplace, all became deeply embedded in cultural consciousness. The author had taken ancient winter celebrations, merged them with Christian values, and created something entirely new, a holiday that belonged not to any single faith, but to anyone who believed in the power of human goodness. The Christmas feast, as imagined by Dickens, became a symbol of abundance and sharing. His vivid descriptions of plum puddings crowned with holly, tables groaning under the weight of seasonal delicacies, families pausing to give thanks, created a template that households across two continents eagerly adopted. Christmas dinner evolved from simple sustenance into ritual celebration, a time when even the humblest table could become an altar to gratitude and love made manifest in shared bread. Children especially embraced Dickens' vision as parents began reading A Christmas Carol aloud by flickering firelight on cold December nights. The story's message of transformation resonated across generations, teaching that goodness could triumph over greed, that generosity was more valuable than gold, that Christmas magic lived not in supernatural visitations, but in ordinary people choosing to be extraordinary in their kindness to one another, especially to those society often forgot. Through Scrooge's journey, Dickens crystallized Christmas as a holiday of the heart, a season when social barriers could temporarily dissolve, when rich and poor shared common hopes, when the industrial world's harsh realities softened under winter's gentle blanket. His Christmas wasn't about religious doctrine, but about human connection, the warmth of community, the joy of giving, and the profound truth that we are all capable of change if we simply choose to open our hearts. The legacy endures, even today. Christmas maintains the moral framework Dickens established. We still speak of Christmas spirit, of seasonal generosity, of family gatherings that heal old wounds. His vision of Christmas transcended Victorian England, becoming a global celebration of human possibility. Every Christmas morning, when families exchange gifts and share meals, when strangers show unexpected kindness, when communities care for their vulnerable members, we echo Dickens' timeless carol of transformation and love. As our journey through A Christmas Carol draws to a close, we can almost see those gas-lit Victorian streets where Dickens first imagined Scrooge's redemption. The story's power lies not in its supernatural elements, but in its fundamental optimism, its belief that people can change, that society can improve, that Christmas can indeed be a force for transformation, turning strangers into neighbors, indifference into compassion, and winter's coldest night into humanity's warmest celebration of love and hope. And now, as soft snowflakes begin to fall across the cobblestone streets of Victorian London, we see Dickens' greatest gift to the world, not just a beloved story, but a transformed season. Christmas, as he reimagined it, lives on in every act of kindness, every family gathering, every moment when we choose compassion over indifference. His Christmas carol continues to echo through time, reminding us that redemption is always possible and that love, like snow, can blanket even the hardest hearts in gentle transformation. Chapter 9: Birth of an Icon. In the flickering candlelight of 1860s America, a German immigrant named Thomas Nast sits at his drawing board, his pen poised over fresh paper. Little does he know, his artistic vision will transform a collection of scattered holiday figures into the most beloved character in Christmas history. Tonight, we witness the magical birth of our modern Santa Claus as one man's imagination reshapes an entire tradition. Thomas Nast arrives in New York as a young man, his artistic talents already burning bright. Working for Harper's Weekly magazine, he becomes known for his powerful political cartoons, but something deeper calls to him during the winter months. The scattered images of Christmas gift bringers, St. Nicholas, Father Christmas, Kris Kringle, all swirl in his mind like snowflakes, waiting to be caught and crystallized into something magnificent. Before Nast's magic touch, Christmas figures appeared in countless forms across America. Some depicted St. Nicholas as a stern bishop, draped in religious robes of purple and gold. Others showed Father Christmas as a tall, thin figure, sometimes dressed in green or brown robes. The Dutch Sinterklaas rode a white horse, while English traditions featured various gift-bringing spirits, each community holding its own fragmented piece of the Christmas puzzle. In 1863, during the darkest days of the Civil War, Nast creates his first iconic Santa illustration. This Santa appears as a jolly, rotund figure visiting Union soldiers in their camp. Gone are the formal bishop's vestments, replaced by a simpler, more approachable outfit. His beard flows white and full, his eyes twinkle with warmth, and for the first time, children and adults alike see a Santa who feels like family. With each passing year, Nast's Santa evolves before our eyes. The austere St. Nicholas of old, with his religious formality and stern countenance, gradually transforms into something warmer, more human. The bishop's mitre disappears completely, replaced by a simple cap. The ecclesiastical robes fade away, giving birth to something entirely new, a figure who belongs not in cathedrals, but in the hearts of families everywhere. The most revolutionary change comes in Santa's attire, as Nast boldly abandons centuries of tradition. The purple and gold vestments of St. Nicholas, the brown robes of Father Christmas, all fade into memory. Instead, Nast dresses his Santa in simple, practical clothing, the kind a beloved grandfather might wear. The colors shift and settle, searching for the perfect combination that will capture hearts for generations to come. And then, like magic, the red suit appears. Not the bright commercial red of later years, but a deep, rich crimson that speaks of warmth and comfort. Trimmed with white fur that suggests the snowy north, this outfit transforms Santa from a religious figure into something entirely new, a symbol of joy and generosity that transcends all boundaries. The red suit becomes Santa's signature, his uniform of happiness. Nast's imagination doesn't stop with Santa's appearance. It extends to his entire world. The artist envisions a magical workshop tucked away at the North Pole, where Santa and his helpers create toys throughout the year. This isn't just a place of work, it's a realm of wonder, where Christmas magic lives and breathes, where every child's dream takes physical form through loving craftsmanship. Perhaps most enchanting of all, Nast gives Santa his magnificent sleigh, no longer bound to earth like the Dutch Sinterklaas on his horse. This Santa soars through winter skies, pulled by a team of magical reindeer. The sleigh itself becomes a vessel of dreams, carrying not just gifts, but the very spirit of Christmas across rooftops and through starlit nights, making the impossible feel wonderfully real. Under Nast's gentle guidance, Santa's personality blooms like a winter rose. This is no distant saint or formal gift giver, but a figure of pure warmth and joy. His eyes crinkle with laughter, his belly shakes with merriment, his very presence brings comfort. Nast creates a Santa who loves children unconditionally, who delights in their happiness, who embodies the very best of human kindness. During the terrible years of the Civil War, Nast's Santa becomes a symbol of hope. His illustrations show Santa supporting the Union cause, visiting wounded soldiers, bringing comfort to a nation torn apart. These images do more than entertain, they heal, they unite. They remind Americans that even in darkness, the light of Christmas love continues to shine, bridging divides and binding hearts together. Harper's Weekly becomes the perfect stage for Nast's Christmas magic. Each December, readers eagerly await his latest Santa illustration, watching as the character grows more defined, more beloved with each appearance. The magazine's wide circulation carries these images across America, into homes and hearts, establishing Nast's vision as the definitive Santa Claus, the one true image that captures Christmas spirit. The public's response to Nast's Santa exceeds all expectations. Letters pour in from children asking to see more of the jolly man in red. Parents write to express their gratitude, explaining how these images have brought magic back to their families. Store owners begin using Nast's Santa in their advertisements, and slowly, beautifully, one artist's vision becomes America's shared Christmas dream, universally recognized and deeply loved. The impact of Nast's creation ripples far beyond his own drawings. Other artists begin adopting his vision, his red suit, his jolly demeanor, his North Pole workshop. Publishers commission Santa stories based on Nast's imagery. Toy makers create Santa dolls in his likeness. What began as one man's artistic interpretation becomes the foundation, the bedrock, upon which all future Santa imagery will build. Like seeds carried on winter winds, Nast's Santa spreads beyond America's borders. European publishers reproduce his illustrations, adapting them for their own Christmas traditions. The red suit travels across oceans, the jolly personality transcends language barriers, and slowly, beautifully, what began as an American artist's vision becomes a global symbol of Christmas joy, recognized and beloved in every corner of the world. As we close this chapter, we see Thomas Nast's legacy glowing like starlight across the Christmas sky. From scattered fragments of old traditions, he created something entirely new, something that would outlive him by generations. His Santa, born from imagination and love, continues to bring joy to countless hearts, a testament to the power of artistic vision and the enduring magic of Christmas dreams made real. Chapter 10: The Evergreen Sentinels. Deep in the ancient Germanic forests, where mist clung to towering pines like whispered secrets, our ancestors gazed upon something miraculous. While other trees surrendered their leaves to winter's cruel embrace, the evergreens stood defiant, their needles bright and green against the snow. These weren't simply trees to the Germanic tribes, they were symbols of eternal life, guardians against the darkness, sentinels of hope when all else seemed lost. Picture those early winter nights when the world felt frozen and forgotten. Germanic families would venture into the forest, their breath forming clouds in the frigid air, searching for the perfect evergreen. They believed these trees held magical powers, that bringing branches indoors would protect their homes from evil spirits. The rich scent of pine filled their dwellings, a reminder that life endured even in winter's harshest grip, a promise that spring would return once more. The tradition spread slowly through the German states, from humble cottages to grand castles. Families began decorating their evergreen branches with simple ornaments, apples symbolizing the Garden of Eden, nuts representing divine sustenance, and flickering candles that pushed back the long winter darkness. These early Christmas trees weren't elaborate displays, they were sacred rituals, connecting families to something eternal and beautiful in a world that often felt harsh and unforgiving. Centuries passed before this gentle tradition crossed the English Channel, carried in the heart of a young German princess named Charlotte. When she married King George III, she brought with her the customs of her homeland, including the magical evergreen tree that bloomed with light each December. But it would take another generation before the Christmas tree truly captured British hearts through the influence of someone even more beloved than a queen. Enter Queen Victoria, young, spirited, and deeply in love with her German husband, Prince Albert. In 1840, their marriage united more than two hearts. It blended two rich cultural traditions. Albert longed to share the Christmas customs of his childhood with his new English family. That first December, he arranged for a magnificent evergreen to be installed in Windsor Castle's drawing room, not knowing he was about to change Christmas forever in the English-speaking world. Picture that historic December evening in Windsor Castle. The grand drawing room glowed with warm candlelight, casting dancing shadows across silk wallpaper and polished mahogany. In the center stood a towering evergreen, its branches adorned with delicate ornaments, flickering candles, and small gifts wrapped in colorful paper. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert stood together with their young children, their faces illuminated by wonder and joy, creating a scene that would inspire millions. And the Illustrated London News captured that magical moment in 1848, publishing an engraving that showed the royal family gathered around their Christmas tree. Suddenly, every British household wanted to recreate this scene of domestic bliss. The image spread like wildfire across the Atlantic, and within decades, Christmas trees became the centerpiece of holiday celebrations throughout Britain and America. What had once been a German forest tradition was now a global phenomenon, all because of one loving family. Imagine walking through a Victorian parlor on Christmas Eve, the air thick with the sweet scent of pine needles and melting candle wax. A beautiful evergreen stands in the corner, its branches heavy with handmade decorations, delicate glass baubles catching the firelight, strings of popcorn and cranberries draped like nature's jewelry, tiny wooden toys dangling from silk ribbons. Children gather around in wonder, their eyes wide with Christmas magic, while adults smile at memories of their own childhood Christmases. The ritual of decorating became as cherished as the tree itself. Families would gather together, each member contributing their special ornament or handmade decoration. Mothers guided tiny fingers in stringing cranberries. Fathers lifted little ones to place stars atop the highest branches. Each ornament told a story: the paper angel made in Sunday school, the wooden horse carved by grandfather, the silver bell that chimed softly when brushed by passing skirts. These weren't just decorations, they were family memories made tangible. The candlelit Christmas tree created moments of pure magic. As evening fell, families would gather in the parlor for the lighting ceremony. One by one, tiny candles were carefully lit with long tapers, their flames dancing like captured starlight. The evergreen transformed into something ethereal, a tree of light standing against the winter darkness. Children would sit quietly, mesmerized by the gentle glow, while parents whispered stories of Christmas past and dreams of Christmas future, creating memories that would last lifetimes. Meanwhile, in the forests where it all began, ancient evergreens stood silently in the snow, unknowing of their fame. These towering sentinels had witnessed centuries of human celebration, from pagan rituals to royal traditions. Their branches had sheltered winter birds, their roots had drunk deep from earth that held the stories of countless generations. They were living bridges between past and present, between the sacred and the everyday, reminding us that some traditions run as deep as forest roots. As the 19th century waned, Christmas tree farms began appearing across the countryside. Enterprising farmers discovered they could cultivate these magical evergreens, bringing the forest tradition to city dwellers who had never walked among ancient pines. Families would venture out on crisp December mornings to choose their perfect tree, children running between rows of evergreens, parents discussing height and fullness, everyone breathing in that distinctive Christmas scent that meant home and happiness and love made visible. The Christmas tree tradition adapted and evolved. Electric lights replaced dangerous candles, making celebrations safer and more brilliant. Mass-produced ornaments joined family heirlooms on evergreen branches. Department stores began displaying elaborate Christmas trees to lure holiday shoppers, and public squares erected towering evergreens that entire communities could share. Yet at its heart, the tradition remained unchanged, a symbol of life persisting through darkness, hope enduring through winter, families gathering in love and gratitude. Picture a modern Christmas tree lot. On a snowy December evening, strings of colored bulbs illuminate rows of fresh-cut evergreens, their branches dusted with snow like powdered sugar. Families wander between the trees, children tugging mittened hands toward their favorites, while parents check for straightness and fullness. The air fills with laughter and the sound of saws cutting through trunk bases, while the timeless scent of pine promises that this year's Christmas will be just as magical as all the others before. In quiet moments, when the house sleeps and only the Christmas tree glows softly in the corner, we can feel the connection to all who came before. Those Germanic families who first brought evergreen branches indoors, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert sharing their joy with the world, countless generations who've gathered around these trees of light. The tradition continues because it speaks to something eternal in the human heart, our need for beauty, hope, and connection during the darkest days of winter. And so the evergreen sentinels stand guard in forests and living rooms, on city squares and kitchen tables. They remind us that some things endure, that beauty persists even in winter's depths, that traditions begun in ancient forests can bring light to modern homes. And as you drift toward sleep tonight, imagine those towering pines standing silent in the snow, their branches reaching toward stars that have witnessed every Christmas tree that ever was or ever will be. Rest well and dream of evergreen magic. Chapter 11, Carols and Choirs. Listen closely. Can you hear that soft hum drifting through time itself? Ancient medieval chants echo from stone corridors. their haunting melodies weaving through centuries of Christmas tradition. Tonight, we journey through the rich tapestry of carol singing, from humble beginnings in monastery halls to the joyful voices that fill our hearts each December. These songs carry stories, stories of hope, of celebration, of human connection across cultures and generations. In the earliest days of Christianity, monks would chant their prayers in Latin, their voices rising and falling like sacred breath. These were not yet the carols we know, but something deeper, more mystical. The Gregorian chants filled cathedral spaces with otherworldly beauty, each note carefully crafted to lift the soul toward heaven. Imagine those stone walls, cold to the touch, yet warmed by the collective voices of devoted singers, creating something transcendent together. As centuries passed, these sacred melodies began to change, to evolve into something more accessible. The Church realized that Latin hymns, while beautiful, could not reach the hearts of common people. So gradually, vernacular languages crept into Christmas music. French, German, English, each culture adding its own flavor to the growing tradition of seasonal song. This transformation marked the birth of what we would recognize as true Christmas carols. Picture medieval town squares on crisp December nights, snow falling gently on cobblestone streets, families gathering around flickering torches and warming fires. Here, away from the formal grandeur of cathedrals, carol singing took on a different character entirely. It became communal, joyful, spontaneous. Children would run between groups of singers, their laughter mixing with melodies that spoke of simple pleasures, of shared warmth, of celebrating life itself during the darkest season. The tradition of caroling, of moving from house to house, emerged from these town square gatherings. Singers would venture through snowy streets, their voices carrying messages of good cheer to neighbors and strangers alike. Each doorstep became a small concert hall, each threshold a bridge between the sacred and the everyday. This practice transformed Christmas music from something experienced only in churches into something that lived and breathed in the very fabric of community life. Different regions developed their own distinct carol traditions, each reflecting local culture and language. In England, wassailing songs accompanied apple orchard ceremonies. In Germany, Weihnachtslieder told stories of the Christ child and winter wonder. France contributed elegant noels with sophisticated harmonies. Spain offered villancicos with rhythmic complexity, while Italy shared beautiful pastorales that painted musical pictures of the nativity scene. Each tradition added unique colors to the growing carol tapestry. The Protestant Reformation brought dramatic changes to Christmas music. Martin Luther himself wrote carols, believing that beautiful songs could help spread religious truth. He composed Away in a Manger, creating lyrics that common people could understand and melodies they could easily sing. This democratization of sacred music meant that Christmas carols were no longer the exclusive domain of trained church choirs, but belonged to everyone from peasant to prince. As carol traditions spread across Europe, they began crossing oceans to new lands. Colonial America received these musical gifts with open arms, though Puritan influence initially suppressed Christmas celebrations. Eventually, the joy and warmth of carol singing proved irresistible, and these imported melodies took root in American soil. They mixed with native musical traditions, creating hybrid forms that reflected the cultural melting pot of the New World. The 19th century marked a golden age of carol composition. Familiar favorites like Hark the Herald Angels Sing, O Come All Ye Faithful, and the First Noel found their final forms during this period. composers worked to perfect melodies that had been passed down orally for generations, creating the definitive versions we still sing today. This was also when many carols were first published in collections, ensuring their survival for future generations. Gothic cathedrals provided the perfect acoustical setting for Christmas choirs to flourish. Those soaring stone arches, designed to lift voices toward heaven, created natural amplification that made every note ring with crystalline clarity. Imagine sitting in those vast spaces, surrounded by candlelight and stained glass, as hundreds of voices blend into perfect harmony. The architecture itself became an instrument, shaping and enhancing the musical experience through pure physics and divine inspiration. Professional choirs began forming specifically to perform Christmas music. These dedicated groups spent months preparing elaborate concerts that drew audiences from across entire regions. The complexity and beauty of their performances elevated Christmas carols to new artistic heights, transforming simple folk songs into sophisticated musical experiences. Yet, even as the music became more refined, it never lost its essential quality, the ability to touch hearts and unite people in shared celebration. Cultural exchange through trade and exploration meant that Christmas carols began incorporating musical elements from around the world. Spanish guitars influenced Latin American villancicos. African rhythms found their way into American spirituals. Asian musical scales colored carols from missionary territories. This global fusion created rich new varieties of Christmas music, each carrying the distinctive flavor of its homeland while maintaining universal themes of peace, love, and hope. The constant melody running through all these diverse traditions was hope in times of war. Carols provided comfort and continuity. During plagues and famines, they offered reassurance of better days ahead. In moments of personal loss, they reminded people that they were part of something larger, something enduring. This thread of optimism woven through Christmas music helped entire civilizations maintain faith through their darkest hours, binding communities together with shared melody and shared dreams. Of all the carols that emerged from this rich tradition, none captures the essence of Christmas quite like Silent Night. Written in 1818 by Franz Gruber and Joseph Mohr in a small Austrian village, this simple song embodies everything beautiful about carol tradition. Its gentle melody, peaceful lyrics, and universal message have made it beloved across all cultures and languages. The story of its creation, born from necessity when a church organ broke, reminds us that the most profound beauty often emerges from the simplest circumstances. When we hear Silent Night today, we connect with generations of singers who have found solace in its timeless serenity. Its harmonious voices seem to encapsulate the very spirit of Christmas, that magical blend of reverence and joy, of intimacy and universality. The song has been translated into hundreds of languages, sung in countless settings, from grand concert halls to humble living rooms, yet it never loses its power to create moments of perfect peace and transcendent beauty. As the final notes of our carol journey fade into introspective silence, we carry with us the lingering magic of music itself. From those ancient monastery chants to modern choir performances, from medieval town squares to Gothic cathedrals, the tradition of Christmas carols continues to evolve, continue to unite, continue to heal. In this quiet moment, let the echo of centuries of voices singing together remind you that you too are part of this endless, beautiful, hopeful song. Chapter 12, Unwrapping Memories. Listen closely. Can you hear it? The gentle rustle of wrapping paper, the soft whisper of ribbon sliding against itself. These sounds have echoed through centuries, carrying with them stories of generosity that stretch back to ancient Rome. Tonight, we unwrap not just presents, but the beautiful evolution of gift giving itself, discovering how simple tokens of affection became the cherished tradition that warms our hearts each December. In the marble halls of ancient Rome, during the festival of Saturnalia, something magical happened. For 7 days each December, social boundaries dissolved like morning mist. Masters served their slaves, and everyone, regardless of status, exchanged simple gifts: small clay figurines, honey cakes, wax candles. These weren't grand gestures, but humble tokens that said, "I see you, I value you, I wish you well during the darkest days of winter." The Romans understood something profound about giving. It wasn't about the value of the gift, but the warmth of the gesture. Picture a Roman citizen carefully selecting a small bronze coin or a piece of fruit, wrapping it in simple cloth. Their hands moved with intention, with love, the receiver's smile, their surprised delight. These moments created bonds stronger than any marble column, stronger than any empire that would eventually crumble to dust. As centuries drifted by like gentle snow, the tradition evolved. In the misty lands of northern Europe, St. Nicholas emerged from the shadows of history. This generous bishop from Myra, with his flowing robes and gentle heart, would slip through the darkness, leaving small gifts for children, coins and shoes, bread for the hungry. His footsteps echo still in every act of anonymous kindness, every secret gift left without expectation of recognition or thanks. The legend of St. Nicholas spread like warmth from a hearth, reaching into every corner of medieval Europe. Dutch children would leave their wooden shoes by the fire, hoping Sinterklaas would visit. German families hung stockings. French children placed their sabots by the chimney. Each culture added their own gentle touch, their own sweet traditions, creating a tapestry of giving that would eventually cross oceans and find new life in distant lands. Picture a medieval workshop, candlelight dancing across weathered hands as craftsmen carved wooden toys, stitched cloth dolls, shaped clay whistles. Each gift was made with time, with care, with the knowledge that somewhere a child's eyes would light up with wonder. These weren't mass-produced treasures, but pieces of the maker's soul, wrapped in love, destined to become cherished memories that would last lifetimes, passed down through generations like precious heirlooms. The tradition traveled across stormy seas, settling in new lands where it blossomed anew. In colonial America, families gathered around simple evergreen trees, decorating them with homemade ornaments, strings of berries, paper angels, and yes, small gifts wrapped in brown paper, tied with whatever ribbon they could find. The tree became more than decoration. It became a symbol of hope, of abundance, of love, sheltering beneath its evergreen embrace. Imagine Christmas morning in a colonial home, children creeping down wooden stairs, their bare feet silent on cold floors. The tree stands in the corner like a gentle sentinel, its branches heavy with secrets. Underneath, simple gifts wait patiently: a knitted scarf, a carved wooden horse, a precious orange. These weren't extravagant luxuries, but treasures worth more than gold, because they were given with hearts full of love and careful thought. The act of unwrapping became its own ceremony, fingers working carefully at twine knots, preserving every scrap of precious paper for next year, the anticipation building like a crescendo. What treasures hide beneath this simple wrapping? The moment of revelation, when gift met gaze, when surprise bloomed across young faces. These moments became the real gifts, memories wrapped in wonder, stored in hearts where time could never touch them, never fade them. As America grew and prospered, the tradition evolved once more. Victorian parlors filled with more elaborate gifts, department store windows displayed magical scenes that drew crowds of wide-eyed children. Catalogs arrived by mail, thick with possibilities, pages of toys and treats and treasures. The simple clay figurines of Rome had grown into something grander, but at its heart, the same ancient impulse remained, the desire to bring joy, to show love through generous giving. Picture a child's anticipation building through December. Sleep becomes elusive as Christmas morning approaches, dreams filled with possibilities, with packages, with surprises waiting beneath the tree. The night before Christmas stretches endlessly. Every creak of the house might be reindeer hooves. Every shadow might hide a jolly visitor. This sweet torture of waiting, this delicious anticipation, becomes part of the gift itself, part of the magic that makes Christmas morning so incredibly special. The sensory symphony of gift giving awakens all our senses. The rustle of paper, the whisper of ribbon, the satisfying tear as wrapping gives way, the gasp of delight, the squeal of joy, the soft thank you whispered through tears of happiness. Our fingers trace the edges of something unexpected. Our eyes drink in colors and shapes we never imagined. These sensations imprint themselves on memory, becoming treasures we carry long after the gifts themselves are forgotten. But perhaps the greatest gift is watching someone else unwrap theirs. The giver's nervous anticipation, wondering if their choice was right, if it will bring the hoped-for smile. And then, the moment of connection, when eyes meet across crumpled paper, when thank you is whispered with genuine warmth. These moments reveal the true nature of giving. It's not about receiving, it's about creating joy, about building bonds, about saying without words, "You matter to me." Modern commerce has transformed gift giving. Shopping malls bright with artificial snow, online carts filled with digital wishes, marketing messages promising happiness in boxes. Yet beneath all the commercial noise, the ancient heart of the tradition still beats, still calls to us. The most precious gifts remain unchanged: time spent together, handwritten notes, homemade cookies, acts of service. These cost nothing, yet hold everything. They connect us to those Roman citizens, to St. Nicholas, to countless generations of givers. As we near the end of our journey through Christmas traditions, let's pause to unwrap one final gift: the gift of understanding. We've traveled from Roman festivals to modern celebrations, witnessed the evolution of customs and traditions, discovered how ancient wisdom lives on in modern practice. The gift of knowledge is one that grows richer when shared, more valuable when passed down, more precious because it connects us to our shared human story. The last piece of wrapping paper falls away, revealing not an object, but a truth. Every tradition we've explored, every custom we've unwrapped, lives on because people like you chose to keep them alive, to pass them forward, to add your own gentle touches to humanity's great gift. Rest now. Dream of all the traditions you'll carry forward, all the love you'll wrap up and give away, knowing that in giving, we receive the greatest gift of all. Chapter 13, Modern Yuletides. Here we find ourselves in familiar territory, the Christmas we all know and cherish. Despite centuries of change, despite the rise of commercialism and mass marketing, something beautiful happened. The heart of Christmas persevered. Those ancient flames of generosity, of community, of shared wonder, they found new ways to flicker and dance in our modern world. Picture a December evening in any neighborhood today. Warm golden lights cascade from roof lines like fallen stars. Windows glow with the soft amber of Christmas trees, each one a beacon of hope in the winter darkness. Children press their faces to frosted glass, their breath creating little clouds of excitement as they watch for the first snowfall of the season. The familiar scents drift through open doorways: cinnamon and vanilla, roasted turkey, and fresh baked cookies. These are the sensory memories that bind us to Christmas, the same aromas that brought comfort to our grandparents and their grandparents before them. Some traditions need no explanation, they simply feel like home, wrapped in warmth and recognition. Shopping malls buzz with gentle chaos, but look closer and you'll see something beautiful. Parents teaching children about giving, not just receiving. Strangers sharing smiles in checkout lines. Charity bells ringing softly, calling forth the generosity that lies dormant in human hearts all year, waiting for this special season to bloom into acts of kindness and care. Television screens flicker with beloved Christmas movies, stories we've watched dozens of times, yet never tire of seeing, because they remind us of something essential: that magic exists in the simplest moments. A child's laughter, a grandmother's gentle hands making cookies, the quiet contentment of family gathered around a glowing tree, sharing stories and creating memories. Modern Christmas has learned to embrace everyone, regardless of faith or background. Office parties welcome colleagues from all walks of life. Neighborhood celebrations invite participation without judgment. The holiday has evolved into something larger than its origins: the celebration of human connection, of taking time to appreciate the people who make our lives richer and more meaningful. Christmas morning arrives with its familiar rituals: wrapping paper scattered like confetti, coffee brewing in the kitchen, the excited whispers of children unable to sleep. These moments feel both brand new and ancient, as if we're participating in something that connects us to every generation that came before and every generation yet to come. The dinner table becomes a sacred space, laden with dishes that tell family stories. Recipes passed down through generations, each one carrying the love of hands that stirred the same ingredients decades ago. Conversations flow between courses, laughter punctuating the gentle clatter of silverware, everyone present in a way that's rare in our hurried modern world. Churches fill with faces both familiar and new, voices joining in carols that echo across centuries. But Christmas worship extends beyond sanctuary walls, into soup kitchens serving warm meals, into hospitals where volunteers bring comfort, into nursing homes where young voices sing for elderly ears, spreading joy like ripples across still water. Technology has woven itself into Christmas traditions: video calls connecting distant family members, social media sharing moments of joy across continents. Yet somehow, these digital connections enhance rather than diminish the human warmth at Christmas's core. Love finds new pathways, but the destination remains the same: hearts seeking connection and understanding. Christmas markets spring up in city squares, recreating medieval traditions with modern touches. Handcrafted ornaments hang beside mass-produced decorations. Artisan cookies share space with factory-made treats. The commercial and authentic dance together, creating something entirely new, yet comfortingly familiar, proving that Christmas adapts without losing its essential spirit. Children write letters to Santa, maintaining the beautiful mythology of childhood wonder. Parents play along, remembering their own excitement at mysterious gifts appearing overnight. This gentle conspiracy of magic reminds us that Christmas thrives on the willing suspension of cynicism, on choosing to believe in goodness, in generosity, in the possibility of miracles. Even the most skeptical hearts soften in December, hardened by daily stress and worry. They find themselves humming carols, stopping to admire holiday displays, feeling inexplicably hopeful. Christmas works its quiet magic on everyone, not through force or pressure, but through gentle invitation, whispering that this season anything feels possible, any heart can find peace. As Christmas Day draws to a close, families settle into comfortable exhaustion, children clutching new treasures, adults savoring quiet moments of contentment. The frenzy subsides into gentle reflection, appreciation for time spent together, gratitude for another year of love shared, another collection of memories to carry into the coming months when winter feels endless. The lights stay on through New Year, reluctant to let the magic fade too quickly. Houses remain decorated, trees hold their ornaments, as if keeping vigil over the final whispers of the season. These extended celebrations acknowledge what our hearts know, that Christmas spirit deserves more than a single day. It deserves to linger and warm us. And as the modern Yuletide slowly dims, as decorations find their way back to storage, we carry something precious forward. The reminder that amid all complexity, amid rushing and stress and worry, there remains this beautiful pause, this annual invitation to remember what matters most, to choose kindness, to believe in magic, to celebrate the light. Chapter 14, Tomorrow's Traditions. Close your eyes and drift with me into tomorrow's world, where Christmas morning might dawn on the red plains of Mars, where families gather not around fireplaces, but through shimmering portals of light. Yet even in this distant future, even among the stars, something familiar stirs. The same joy that filled ancient hearts still pulses through time, waiting to be discovered in ways we can barely imagine today. Picture the first Christmas on Mars colony. Families huddle in climate-controlled domes as crimson dust swirls outside their windows. Children press their faces against reinforced glass, watching Earth rise like a blue ornament in the alien sky. The Christmas tree stands in the center of their habitat, its roots drinking recycled water, its LED lights powered by solar panels that captured distant sunlight hours ago. In this future world, grandparents on Earth join Christmas dinner through holographic projection, their translucent forms laughing and sharing stories across millions of miles. Children reach out to touch phantom hands, feeling the warmth of love transmitted through quantum entanglement. The traditional Christmas ham is replaced by lab-grown protein, yet the prayers of gratitude remain unchanged, echoing through both dome and living room simultaneously. Virtual reality Christmas mornings allow families separated by continents to unwrap gifts together in digital living rooms that perfectly recreate Grandma's house. Parents upload childhood memories into shared experiences, letting their children walk through holographic versions of Christmases past. Every detail is preserved in perfect digital amber, from the scent of cinnamon rolls to the exact pattern of morning light through frost-covered windows. Christmas trees evolve into holographic sculptures of light, their branches shifting colors with the family's collective mood. These digital evergreens grow taller with each shared memory uploaded to their data cores, becoming living archives of love and laughter. Ornaments transform into floating spheres of captured moments, each one containing a three-dimensional recording of precious family times that can be relived with a gentle touch. Santa's sleigh becomes a constellation of delivery drones, each one guided by AI, that knows every child's deepest wishes. These mechanical reindeer follow flight paths calculated by quantum computers, delivering gifts across solar systems with precision that would make the North Pole workshop seem quaint. Yet somewhere in their programming lives the same generous spirit, the same desire to bring joy to sleeping children everywhere. Space stations celebrate Christmas with zero-gravity carol singing, voices harmonizing as bodies float in perfect spheres around artificial Christmas stars. Wrapped gifts drift like colorful asteroids, caught by laughing astronauts who have learned to navigate 3 dimensions of gift giving. The traditional Christmas feast becomes a careful dance of floating food particles, each bite a small miracle of engineering and joy combined. Digital gift exchanges happen through neural interfaces, where thoughts become presents and memories transform into treasures. Children receive experiences rather than objects, downloading the sensation of snow for the first time, or the feeling of hugging a beloved pet who passed away years ago. These gifts of pure emotion bypass the material world entirely, touching souls directly through carefully crafted digital empathy. Artificial intelligence helps plan perfect Christmas celebrations by analyzing centuries of holiday data, predicting exactly which traditions will bring the most joy to each unique family. These digital assistants coordinate meals across time zones, ensuring that scattered relatives can share simultaneous moments of gratitude. They even generate personalized carols, composing melodies that resonate with each family's specific emotional frequency and shared history. Cross-planetary video calls connect families scattered across the solar system, with children on Europa sharing ice skating videos, while cousins on Titan send footage of methane snow falling outside their habitats. Time delays of hours between planets create asynchronous Christmas celebrations, where morning greetings take all day to arrive, making every hello a precious gift that traveled millions of miles to reach its destination. Traditional Christmas songs evolved to include verses about solar winds and asteroid mining, yet the melodies remain hauntingly familiar. Silent Night becomes Silent Flight, telling stories of peaceful journeys between worlds. Jingle Bells transforms into cosmic orchestras, with each planet adding its own gravitational harmony to the universal song of celebration that echoes across the emptiness of space. But beneath all these technological marvels, something timeless stirs. The same longing that drove ancient families to light candles against winter darkness still burns bright in human hearts, whether those hearts beat on Earth or Mars or in the vast spaces between worlds. Love refuses to be upgraded. Kindness needs no software updates. Generosity functions perfectly without any technological enhancement whatsoever. The essence of Christmas transcends every innovation, surviving quantum computing and surviving faster than light travel with its core message intact. Children still wake with wonder on Christmas morning, whether they're walking on gravity-controlled floors or floating in zero-G chambers. The gift of presence remains more valuable than any present. The warmth of connection burns brighter than any holographic flame could ever simulate. In the end, human connection proves itself the most advanced technology of all. No artificial intelligence can replicate a parent's loving touch. No virtual reality can truly substitute for a grandparent's actual embrace. The algorithms may grow more sophisticated, the devices more incredible, but the simple act of choosing love over loneliness remains humanity's greatest achievement, timelessly perfect and eternally powerful. As we drift back from these imagined tomorrows, look up at the twinkling stars overhead. Those same lights guided ancient wise men, illuminated medieval celebrations and will continue shining long after our wildest technological dreams become everyday reality. They remain constant while everything changes, silent witnesses to love's enduring power, celestial reminders that some things never need improvement, only appreciation. Let the stars whisper their ancient promise that whether Christmas comes with reindeer or rockets, with fireplaces or fusion reactors, with wooden toys or quantum gifts, the heart of the season remains unchanged. Love travels at the speed of light, kindness needs no fuel, and the bonds between humans burn with nuclear intensity, creating warmth that could power entire civilizations forever and always. Chapter 15, Gift of the Magi, Revisited. As our journey through Christmas traditions draws to its gentle close, we return to where we began, contemplating the true essence of gift giving. Tonight, we revisit O. Henry's timeless tale, not just as a story, but as a mirror reflecting the deepest truths about generosity. Here, in the soft glow of understanding, we discover that the greatest gifts are often invisible, wrapped not in paper, but in love itself. Picture Jim and Della, two souls bound by love, yet separated by poverty. Each possessed something precious, she her magnificent hair, he his treasured watch. As Christmas approached, they faced an impossible choice. How could they express their love through gifts when they had nothing to give? Yet in this seeming emptiness, they would discover the profound wisdom that true wealth lies not in what we own, but in what we're willing to sacrifice for others. Della's hair cascaded like silk, a waterfall of golden brown that reached her knees. It was her crown, her glory, her one beautiful thing. Yet as she stood before the mirror on that Christmas Eve, she saw not vanity, but opportunity. With trembling hands, she gathered those precious strands, knowing that love sometimes requires us to release what we treasure most, to give meaning to what we cherish even more. The watch had belonged to Jim's father and his father before him. Passed down through generations, it carried stories of time itself, memories embedded in its golden face. Yet as Jim held it that evening, feeling its familiar weight, he understood that some moments transcend time. Some gifts require us to surrender the past, to create a future filled with deeper meaning, where love becomes more precious than any heirloom. In the gathering dusk of Christmas Eve, two hearts made the same sacred choice. Unknown to each other, they walked separate paths toward the same destination. Della to the wig shop, her hair falling like autumn leaves. Jim to the jeweler, his watch disappearing into eager hands. Each believing they were giving up everything, never knowing they were about to receive something far more valuable, the gift of perfect understanding. When morning light filtered through their humble window, the exchange began. Della's hands shook as she offered the watch chain, her shorn head catching the pale winter sun. Jim's eyes widened as he presented the ornate combs, seeing not her cropped hair, but her luminous smile. In that moment, they realized the beautiful irony, each gift rendered useless, yet each sacrifice making them infinitely richer in ways they'd never imagined possible. O. Henry called them the wisest gift givers, these two who had discovered the secret that eludes so many. They learned that generosity isn't measured by the cost of what we give, but by the cost of the giving itself. Their empty hands held everything, their broken gifts were perfect, their poverty had made them wealthy beyond measure, because they had given pieces of their very souls to each other. This wisdom echoes through all the traditions we've explored together, from ancient Roman generosity during Saturnalia, to medieval Christmas almsgiving, to modern holiday sharing. Each culture understood that the act of giving transforms both giver and receiver, creating bonds stronger than gold chains, memories more precious than jeweled combs, connections that outlast any material treasure we might wrap in festive paper and ribbons. In Norway's ancient Yule celebrations, families shared their last grain with neighbors facing hunger, knowing that generosity would somehow multiply their own blessings. Celtic Druids understood that evergreen branches given freely would ensure the return of spring, their gift to nature returned as nature's gift to them. These stories remind us that giving has always been humanity's way of weaving the fabric of community, stitch by precious stitch. The rustle of wrapping paper fades now, replaced by something deeper, the quiet symphony of hearts opening. In candlelit kitchens, gentle hands prepare meals for solitary neighbors. In snow-covered streets, strangers share umbrellas and warm smiles. In children's bedrooms, parents tuck away worries to preserve the magic of wonder. These moments, unrehearsed and unrecorded, form the true soundtrack of Christmas, humanity's harmonies rising like incense toward understanding. We've journeyed together through centuries of tradition, from Roman gift-giving to Victorian sentimentality, from pagan winter festivals to Christian celebrations of divine love. Each thread we've traced leads to the same beautiful tapestry, the recognition that Christmas isn't about perfect presents or flawless preparations, but about the perfect imperfection of human hearts reaching toward each other across the darkness, creating light where none existed before. Tonight, as you settle into the warmth of your blankets, remember Jim and Della's gentle laughter. They discovered that broken gifts become perfect when given with whole hearts, that empty wallets can overflow with richness, that the greatest treasures are often invisible to everyone except those who matter most. Their story continues in every act of selfless giving, in every moment we choose love over possession, generosity over accumulation. The spirit of Christmas isn't confined to December 25th or limited to any single tradition or belief. It lives in the space between hearts, in the pause before kindness, in the breath before forgiveness. It's the warmth that spreads when we realize that we have enough to share, the peace that comes from knowing we are enough, just as we are, without ornament or decoration, beautiful in our simple willingness to care. As sleep draws near, let your mind release the weight of perfect gift-giving, the pressure of flawless celebrations, the anxiety of meeting expectations. Instead, drift toward the gentle truth that the most meaningful presents are often intangible. Your presence rather than presence, your attention rather than acquisition, your love given freely, without condition or expectation of return, like snow falling softly on the silent earth. In the gathering silence, you can almost hear it, the sound of hearts opening, like flowers blooming in winter darkness. This is Christmas magic at its purest not dependent on lights or music, not requiring perfect circumstances or abundant resources, but growing quietly in the rich soil of human compassion, nurtured by every small kindness, every gentle word, every moment we choose to see each other as gifts worthy of treasure. And so our story ends where it began, with the recognition that the greatest gifts require no wrapping, the most precious treasures fit no boxes. The deepest joy comes not from receiving, but from the sacred act of giving itself. As you drift now into peaceful slumber, let the enduring spirit of Christmas nestle deep within your heart, a gentle flame that burns through all seasons, warming you with the knowledge that you are both gift and giver, blessed and blessing.